Alright, hello everyone. Thank you for making it here to the meeting today. As many of you all know, we have a lot to discuss today. First, I would like to congratulate Sherry and her team on a newly renovated physical therapy room. Congratulations on completing that, and for all of the hard work that you and your team put into that project. Alright, so our main order of business here today is to discuss our recent decision to end our relationship with the MCO. Now the MCO, the main thing we get from it is our Medicaid and Medicare patients. And we've been noticing as we go through all this paperwork and all the privacy information that is required to handle the MCO is that we're just not really getting enough reimbursements back on for all the charges we are sending over there. So we, as the head of departments and with the support of the board, we are deciding to split from the MCO. Now, while splitting with the MCO, we are worried that we might lose our physicians. So I have offered here today two different solutions in which we can keep our physicians and split from the MCO. So while we have splitting for MCO, some of the main problems is our reimbursements from the MCO are not adequate enough. Also, our hospital is currently sitting at third in choices of hospitals to attend. I believe that we need to increase our marketing and better the image of our hospital to get those numbers up. Finally, the split is going to be a clerical nightmare. So we have to find new ways to gain the clientele that we'll possibly lose and to improve our insurance policies to accommodate for this change. So on this screen, as we see here, is our fiscal year budget for the year of 2019, last year. Now we did have a operating income profit of $829,500. Despite this profit, as you can see, our return on our contract with the MCO was very small. I think we came in around about 40% of the actual reimbursement, which is why, because the percentage of that reimbursement is so low, we need to go and split from the group. So one of the main challenges we have come together and seen for this transition is that the actual transition is going to be a main challenge. Because coming out of this transition is challenging, because the hospital will have to restructure a majority of its policies and procedures to accommodate for this change. So our plan of action to accommodate for this change is I'd like to get all of the head of departments to first come and sit down and to discuss how we can change each department's policies and procedures to fit this change. Now everyone's policies and procedures aren't going to change for each department. For example, the chief of nursing will have some changes but won't be as big of changes as our head biller. Although some of these changes won't be different and some won't be as drastic, each person still has a part to play. And I believe that we need to delegate authority to other superiors and supervisors within our departments to help with this change and to have this transition go as smoothly as possible. Now, I am going to give you guys as much free rein as possible with delegating your authority and handling your supervisors to do this, but I'd also like each of those head of departments to come together at least twice a week so we can discuss our progress with this change and to continue on and raise any concerns we might have. Now, another one is our marketing. Challenging is our marketing because right now we are not the go-to. We only take about 25% of the market share, and I believe that we as a hospital can do better and get higher in that market. Also, there might be a concern of a loss of patients due to not longer having the support from the MCO. So I'd like to work with our marketing managers specifically, as well as our communication managers, to find ways to spread our name and market our hospital. Some potential marketing strategies could be setting up free remote clinics throughout town on a certain day. This would be just general checkups and stuff like that, but it still gets our name up there and says, hey, we're here for you guys. Because ultimately the main point is the patient. The patient is our main concern. We can also send flyers and monetary incentives to attract new clientele. Now, our receptionists as well as our billers will need to be updated on these schedule sheet procedures and be trained to handle this new patient inflow and how to approach this inflow on our terms instead of the terms of the MCO. Billers must also be trained on how to balance these monetary incentives we'll be giving out and be able to process those into their files and their statements as well. Now, the main challenge for all of this is keeping our physicians. This is a big challenge because 60% of our staff comes from the private practice. If we lose these physicians, our clientele will be greatly reduced, and we could lose a large amount of money, which could eventually lead to job cuts and downsizing, and worst case scenario, closure of the hospital. Now, I know only 40% of our total revenue comes from these private practice positions, but 40% is still quite a lot, and we don't want to just lose these physicians because they are great physicians and they do great work, and they also help us bring that clientele that we need. It doesn't always also affect us, but it also affects the hundreds of people in the community who desperately need our hospital for care. If we can't supply physicians, then we're obviously not going to be able to supply the patient's care or need, or we won't be able to supply adequate care because our physicians we do have on hand are have too many patients to care for and they can't do proper treatment. So I propose two solutions to this plan. Our first solution is to make a new contract with the practice while providing Medicaid incentives. So the main part of this is to set up a contract with the practice to have the physicians to continue to work for us even though we are no longer affiliated with the MCO, and also to provide Medicaid and other insurance incentives to patients in order to increase patient volume and attain more of the market share. Now, this is going to cost money, quite a bit of money actually. The advantages to doing this, though, are that we are no longer under the MCO, which means we can bill and do stuff with a lot less paperwork and on our own terms with our physicians, so we're not requiring to go through the MCO and have to send that paperwork there to get physicians can come and have duties and privileges at our hospital without having to go through all the paperwork through the MCO. And also we can increase our market share because a greater market share in this company means a greater revenue in which we can pull out and go into other marketing strategies to better our patients' care. We can also help more underserved patients by increasing Medicaid incentives throughout our hospital. Now, some disadvantages of this are obviously the high cost. It is going to be quite a large sum of money to fund this, as well as time. We're expecting around maybe a year to 2 years, if not 3, to completely transition and get this flowing smoothly. There's also going to be a large stress on the billing because this will have different changes. It's not just sending out to the MCO anymore, but it's doing a lot of this by ourselves, and we're going to have to learn how to do that most effectively. Now, to pay for this, we're predicting about an $11 million loan. Now, this loan will be a 10-year loan, which will be compounded monthly at an interest rate of 6%. Now, I brought here just to show the first and second year of the loan and how it will affect our budget in the next 2 slides. So our proposed budget for the change is that our contract we're going to have to raise. If we want these physicians to come, we're going to have to give them some incentive to come. So we're doubling about the pay that we're getting through the incentive for the MCO. And we're expecting a higher return from those physicians because they'll be bringing in more patients and more clientele as well. Now, as you can see, both our supplies and liability increase because we will be needing more liability insurance due to the loss of the MCO and going through there. Our research and teaching costs also has increased because we'll need to train and teach new members around the hospital how to handle these procedures. Now, our miscellaneous costs also rose because that's due to getting our market cost out there and allowing for new patients to come in and hopefully get that thing. We also included our first loan payback. So our first loan cost is going to be, for the whole year, will be about $757,000. And this puts us around about a $3 million deficit in the first year. Now, not the fret. We continue on through that second year. When we have our set contract, we can tend to start going back. We'll have less costs in our marketing because hopefully we have more clientele by then, but we'll still be sending some of our costs through the market to get that base. Our research and training costs also go down because hopefully we don't have to train as much to get these people on the right procedures. As you can see from here, we had a $3 million profit from this, in which over time we have about a $1 million income profit from the past 2 years. Now here's a timeline of the first year of what it will look like getting our patients in and getting this whole transfer going. Now we're expecting to at least get started on our own self-sufficiently in about 5 to 6 months, and then they'll be just tweaking from here on out. So hopefully through this we can be able to, and with setting our policies and procedures, we'll be able to get that down. Now, the second solution I propose is, I know we want to get out of the MCO, but what if we were to strengthen our relationship with this MCO? MOC. By strengthening our relationship, we would be able to increase our reimbursements, potentially, gain more patients, and not have the risk at all of losing our physicians. So the advantages here are we'll have that strong clientele base. We could potentially get more clientele because we are strengthening our relationship with the MOC. Also, we might have more paperwork and clerical work too, and the market share stays the same, so we're still at that 25%, which we do want our market share to increase, so we're seen as a better hospital to attract more clientele. This also decreases our room for mobility. If we do want to eventually leave after we strengthen, it'll be a lot harder than it is right now. So here's a proposed budget for staying in. We're obviously increasing our patients, which will get a bigger revenue, which we're now bringing reimbursements in of about 60% instead of 40%, which is allowing for a higher yield. This does have a less deficit in the first year, as we can see, which is great, but also, as you can see in the second year, our budget is, we don't have a highest return. Only $79,000 opposed to that $3 million, with a total income of around $588,000. So you can see where the first solution, we had a much higher return as opposed to this one. So because of that, although we do have to take out a loan, we don't have to take out a loan in this one, which does make it more plausible and maybe more interesting insightful to enter into. However, after we had debated much about this, we have decided that our plan of action is to go with solution 1, because although the overall cost is higher, the payback in the long term will be higher, and we will have a larger revenue than if we just stay with the MCO. And it's all about the long term. In the short term, it seems not the right way, but in the long term, it will pay out to leave from the MCO. And some risks must be taken. But overall, this solution is not only the best for our hospital, but also for our current and future patients, because the primary goal is to care for our patients. And by ending this relationship, we will be able to better provide for our patients. And myself and all the heads departments, as well as the board, believes this is the best option. Thank you.